How to solve every SAT reading question on the exam. If you're studying for the SAT and tough reading passages and trap answers keep beating you, watch this. I'm giving you my complete reading guide my students use to finish faster and consistently pick the right answer. Our students average a 140-point SAT score increase using these lessons. Here's what you'll get in the next few minutes. How to stop falling for trap answers, how to read faster on the exam, and how to solve every SAT reading question on the test. Timestamps in the description below. Avoid trap answers with these 4 rules. Rule 1. You need to notice strong words in the answer choices. These are words that indicate quantity. So do few things do it or do all things do it? Comparison, like more than or less than. Time, so that would be how often something occurs. Does it always happen? Or does it never happen? And then necessity, as in must it happen? Does it need to happen? These are strong words in answer choices. Let's take a look at an example. This is a mini passage. King Brett bit a banana and spit it out on the carpet. It was poisoned. Let's take a look at answer choice A. Brett often eats bananas. What's the strong word here? It's going to be often, because while Brett ate a banana in this case, I cannot say that he often eats bananas. That one word makes A an incorrect answer choice because I don't know how often he eats bananas. This might be a one-off banana, who knows? Taking a look at B, more kings are being poisoned. More would be the strong word here, it would be a comparison. Can I use this passage to see how often kings were poisoned before Brett was poisoned? And if this is more than what occurred in the past? No. I can say a king was poisoned, but I cannot say more kings are being poisoned. That would be a strong word and a trap answer. Rule number 2. You want to make sure your answer choice aligns with the main idea. The main idea is whatever the passage is about, the point of the passage. It'll be clear as we take a look at these examples. Let's take a look at C. How the carpet got ruined. So if I said, what was this passage about? Was it about a carpet being ruined? No, it was about a king being poisoned. Although there was a carpet mentioned, and maybe that carpet got ruined because he spit poisoned banana on it, that was not what this was about. It was not about a carpet. Then you have D, the popularity of poison. While poison was used in this case to try to kill King Brett, this wasn't about how popular poison was. This was more or less telling me a story about a king that was poisoned. It was not about poison itself. Rule 3 is you have to make sure your answer choice doesn't make assumptions. Assumptions are claims without evidence. And so what the SAT will do is they'll take one tiny part of what happened in the passage and use it to make a very broad generalization or claim. Here's an example. E. Most people spit poison out. While in this case, Brett did spit the poisoned banana out, I can't use that as evidence to make a generalization or claim that all people spit poison out. In addition, hope you notice that there's some overlap in these rules. Most would be a strong word as well. F. Bananas are a common poison device. Once again, while the banana was used as the poison device in this scenario, can I use that as a claim to say bananas are a common poison device? In addition, common would be a strong word in that answer as well. Rule number 4. Make sure your answer, the one that you choose, is supported with evidence from the passage. You should be able to go back into the passage and find where it supports the answer. If you can't, that means the answer is wrong. In this case, we can look at G. The king was almost poisoned. A king was almost poisoned. He took a bite of a poisoned banana and he spit it out. Therefore, I can find evidence in the passage that supports G as the correct answer for this question. Here's a list of the most common trap answers on the SAT. Feel free to screenshot this, write it down for your own personal study. Grab my free digital SAT trap answer decoder and timing calculator. It shows the 6 trap answers to avoid on the SAT and the exact pacing for each 32-minute reading module so you can finish with extra time. Click the link in the description to download it now. Fix the 2 most common SAT reading mistakes with these 3 steps. The first most common mistake I see is that students read way too fast. A sign of this is if you've read the entire passage and you don't remember anything about what you read. It's a sign you're reading too fast. Or you have the other problem. The second problem is students read way too slow. It's likely because you're focusing too much on names, dates, and just general SAT fluff that they throw in. So reading faster isn't about literally reading faster, it's about reading more efficiently. Here's how to fix it in 3 steps. Step 1 is you're going to want to understand the passage one sentence at a time. So if you find yourself reading way too fast, just limit to yourself one sentence at a time. Trust me, it's going to boost your reading comprehension too. The second step is to focus on ideas and not details. This is great for students who are reading a little too slow. You don't want to focus on names, dates of when things occurred, or fancy definitions. You just want to focus on the ideas, the main idea or the general gist of what happened. Third step is you want to think as you read. This enhances your comprehension and makes sure you remember what you read in the passage. So think, why did the author write it this way? Or how does this relate to the question? I call this active reading, and it's incredibly important on the SAT. Improve your SAT reading speed with these 4 skills. Skill 1, you need to understand transitions. Transitions are words that connect ideas and sentences together. They show us the relationship between the ideas. Here's an example. I want to lose weight. I ate a salad. Saying those independent of each other kind of sounds a little choppy. But if I said, I want to lose weight, so I ate a salad, so would be the transition, and so would connect the fact that me wanting to lose weight caused me to eat a salad. You need to know the 5 types of transitions for the SAT. Type 1 is and. So and is the one we commonly use, even though there's a bunch of transitions that mean and that sound a little fancy, like furthermore or moreover. There's a list on that later, which I'll show you, but for now, just understand how and works. And connects idea 1 to idea 2. Here's an example. I like pizza and ice cream. These are both things that I like, so this agrees. But pizza is idea 1 and idea 2, which is ice cream. Next, we have so. This implies cause and effect. So, I want to lose weight, so I ate a salad. Me wanting to lose weight caused me to eat the salad. That's the effect of so. 3, for example. This is when you go from very general to very specific. I love burgers. For example, McDonald's Big Mac. I went from all burgers in the entire world to a very specific example of the McDonald's Big Mac. 4, but, and this is the only disagreeing transition. This indicates a contrast. So if I said, I want to lose weight, but I ate a Big Mac, that would make sense because eating a Big Mac is counterintuitive to losing weight. It actually makes me gain weight. It's the opposite of trying to lose weight. So let's think about it this way. If I said, I want to lose weight, so I ate a Big Mac, that makes no sense because how would wanting to lose weight cause me to eat a double cheeseburger? It wouldn't. So but would be the transition you use there. And then 5th, we have time and order. This is like first, second, third, I did this, then I did that. Here's an example. First I ate pizza, then I ate ice cream. If I said I ate pizza, I ate ice cream, you'd be like, okay. But if I said first I ate pizza and then I ate ice cream, it would suddenly put it together, it would be more of a story. That's what those transitions do. If this helped you stop picking almost right answers, hit the like button so YouTube shows this to more SAT students. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any more videos and test prep guide. Now back to the video. Take a look at this example here. You can see that there's and, for example, so, but, and then represents time and order. But these are all of the different transitions you'll see on the SAT categorized. So if you see furthermore or moreover, they just mean and. If you see specifically, it just means for example, or consequently just means so. And then what's good about this is screenshot this, kind of underline and highlight the ones you don't recognize and try to memorize them for the SAT. The second skill to improve your SAT reading speed is finding the main idea. The main idea is just the central theme of the passage. What was the passage about? What were the main characters, etc. And it's incredibly important to find it because everything on the SAT comes back to the main idea. If an answer choice doesn't mention the main idea, it's probably wrong. So it's incredibly important that you're able to find the main idea. Here's how to do it in 4 steps. The first step would be to look at the topic sentence. So this would be the first sentence in the paragraph or the last sentence in the paragraph. Is the main idea just clearly stated? A lot of the times in science passages, it'll be stated at the beginning or end of the paragraph because everything will either build off of the first sentence or build onto the last sentence, and that'll kind of be the conclusion. Next, you want to look for repeated words, characters, or ideas. This helps a lot with poems or literary passages. You want to look at Was there a repeated word that happened again and again and again, or similar words? Repeated characters, so what character was in every scene was mentioned in every paragraph? Or was there a specific idea every sentence was talking about? This would likely be the main idea. The next step would be to ask yourself, what is the passage about? A lot of the times the main idea is frequently mentioned throughout the paragraph. Therefore, if you ask yourself, what was the main idea? What was this about? You can usually pull the main idea yourself just by thinking about the passage, because your brain will naturally pick up on the ideas or words mentioned most frequently. And then last one would be, why did the author write this? So it's the central point of the passage. Sometimes the main idea is about what the passage was about. Other times it could be, what was the passage trying to do? And that's how you find the main idea in 4 steps. The third way to improve your SAT reading speed is by finding tone and strong words in the passage. This is important because tone of the passage usually matches the correct answer choice. So if the passage is sad, the correct answer choice will be sad. And this helps a lot with poems and literary passages, because a lot of the times understanding the poems logically doesn't help. But if I pick up the tone of the poem, I can match it with the correct tone of the answer choice, and I don't actually have to understand the poem all the way. So there are 4 types of tone and strong words to watch out for. First, you have positive tone. These are words like beautiful, amazing, wonderful, banana. So if I think about this banana, it's pretty positive, right? This is a pretty positive tone. It's going to be a great banana. So likely the correct answer choice will talk about the banana in a positive light. The opposite is the second one, negative tone, like a horrible, lamenting, sorrowful banana. You can see that the answer choice, if that were the passage, the answer choice would be pretty negative. I wouldn't choose a positive answer choice talking about the banana if I used words like horrible, lamenting, and sorrowful in the passage. Third, you have to watch out for is neutral tone. This is often the tone of science passages. So that's like if I said, store-bought, yellow, uneaten banana. Does that really change your opinion about this banana at all? It kind of doesn't really have a tone. It's pretty generic. This is what I would call SAT fluff. This is the stuff you would want to ignore on the SAT so you can read faster. You want to ignore that it's store-bought, yellow, uneaten, like whatever. That's just a basic banana. That's likely not going to be the main idea or important information. Last, we have strong words. These are important. While they don't have tone, they change my idea about the banana. So strong words will change your idea or image of a noun, idea, etc. that's mentioned in the passage. Here's an example. It's not just a banana, it's an influential banana. Not good or bad, it can be a good influence or a bad influence, but it's an influential banana. That makes it kind of important, right? Or a unique banana. It could be unique because it's an ugly banana, it could be unique because it's a beautiful banana, but unique banana is very strange. That would catch my attention when reading a passage. Same with expensive banana. So why is this banana expensive? Is it because I'm starving and I'm willing to pay $1 million for some food? Or is it the best banana in the whole wide world? I don't know, but I do know that's intriguing. That changes my idea that this is no ordinary banana. It's a expensive banana. And so while you read passages on the SAT, picking up on positive, negative, or strong words will enhance your comprehension of the passage and allow you to understand it quicker, improving your reading speed. In addition, ignoring a neutral tone will allow you to read faster because you know what not to place emphasis on. The fourth skill to improve your SAT reading speed is learning how to create dumb summaries. So this is where you just write down the main idea and tone on your scratch paper. You typically want to keep it short, 1 to 10 words. So as you read the passage during the exam, you want to go to your scratch paper and just jot down the main ideas as you read them. And if there's tone, mention the tone or a tone shift. This improves your reading comprehension and reading speed. That's because you no longer have to reread the sentences multiple times to get the important information because you've already written it down on your paper and you can just review your paper instead of reading a dense SAT passage. This is proven to cause higher scores. There were studies that came out where students who used their scratch paper more on either the math and the reading scored higher than students who didn't. This is proven to cause score increases because it enhances your comprehension of the passage and it makes you so you go through the passages quicker because you don't have to read them multiple times. Here's an example on how to do them. The banana was sad that he lost his shoes, but became happy when he found them. My dumb summary of this passage would be, this was a story about bananas and shoes, and it started negative, that he was sad when he lost his shoes, and then it became positive because he was happy when he found them. You can do this with very, very dense passages. It is a great skill to practice on the SAT reading and writing sections. And dumb summaries are great because that's all the other 3 skills coming together. You found the main ideas. You can notice the tone or strong words mentioned in the passage. And transitions will indicate changes in tone throughout the passage. We can see that it was sad. The banana was sad he lost his shoes. But a disagreeing transition, he was happy. We can see it went negative, then to positive, and that transition indicates that as you read. So combining all 4 of these skills will enhance your reading comprehension and enhance your reading speed for the SAT. The ultimate SAT reading strategy in 4 steps. Step 1 is you want to read the question and understand the question and the question type. This is important because it tells you what to look for in the passage. So if I'm asked to support a claim, I want to find that claim in the passage. Or if I'm asked to find the main idea, I want to look for the main idea in the passage. The next step is to read the passage. You want to look for the answer or the important information that the question is asking you for. Nothing else matters. The best way to read faster on the SAT is to pay attention to the important stuff and forget the rest. This is primarily where you're going to want to do your dumb summary. So if you were going to jot down the main idea, the tone to help you comprehend the passage, you're likely going to do it on step 2. Step 3 is to predict the answer. Before looking at the answer choices, you just want to give a quick prediction. So what would be the main idea? If it was a vocab question, what would go into the blank? If it was a transition question, what transition would you use? And this helps you find the correct answer. In addition, if you find yourself not able to predict an answer, able to predict the main idea or anything, it's likely because you didn't comprehend the passage. And this is your cue to say, oh, I need to reread this passage or pay more attention to a specific part so I can predict an answer. The last step is to confirm your answer. Your answer should be somewhat similar to your prediction. In addition, you need to make sure with every answer that you choose, you need to ask 2 questions. Is it supported by the passage? And does it align with the passage's main idea? If it can pass both of those, it's likely the correct answer. Here's how to solve all the types of SAT reading questions. All of SAT's reading questions can be categorized into 3 categories. The first category is craft and structure. The next one's information and ideas. The third one's expression of ideas. This is the way they occur on the test too. So when you take a reading module, the first types of questions you get will be craft and structure, then information ideas, and it will end on expression of ideas. The only section missing are standard English conventions, but that's actually the grammar section, and that's out of the scope of this video. So I'm really going to talk about these 3 and how to answer every single type of question, with the first one being craft and structure. I'm going to focus on the 3 types of questions that fall under craft and structure. It's going to be words and context, text structure and purpose, cross-text connections. So let's begin. How to solve words and context questions in 4 steps. You can recognize these because they ask which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase. Or they ask, as used in the text, what does the word XYZ most nearly mean? These are commonly referred to as vocabulary questions, and they're always the first questions on every single reading and writing module. The next step is to read the passage. When you read the passage of vocabulary questions, you want to pay close attention to main ideas, punctuation, transitions, and tone and strong words. That's because this helps with the next step. You want to predict the answer. This is incredibly important for vocabulary questions. You want to predict the word that goes into the blank or the underlined word's meaning before looking at the answer choices. To do that, you look at the main ideas, the punctuation, the different transitions, the tone or strong words. Is this a positive tone, negative tone? Because all of those help you predict your answer. 4, you want to confirm the answer. You want to take your prediction and compare it to the answer choices. A lot of the time for easier vocabulary problems, maybe in the first module, this is really helpful. You can even predict the correct answer before looking at the answer choices. You just want to use your prediction to help you choose the correct answer. But for the harder ones, it's a little bit more complicated. you're probably going to have to do process of elimination. So that while the prediction won't get you the correct answer every time, it'll help you eliminate wrong ones, and that's just as good. Or you're going to be between words you kind of know the meaning or words where you don't know the meaning at all. And my advice here is words where you don't know the meaning are just fine. Do not get rid of them because you don't know what they mean. What you want to do is get rid of the words where you know the meaning, but you also know they're not the correct answer. And if you're ever between a word where you kind of know the meaning and a word where you don't know the meaning at all, choose the one where you don't know the meaning, the unknown word. That's because if you do know a word's meaning and you don't want to choose it, that's because it's the wrong answer. Don't choose it, go with the unknown word. The next one are text structure and purpose questions, but there's 3 types. So the first type is purpose questions. Here's how to solve it in 4 steps. You want to go ahead and read the question, and purpose questions are going to ask you which choice best states the main purpose of the text. Then the next step is to read the passage. And as you read the passage, you want to think to yourself, why did the author write this passage? Is there a main idea? Is it to inform, entertain, or persuade me? Then you want to go ahead and predict your answer, then confirm your answer with the passage. And this is one of those questions where your prediction is going to be pretty similar to the correct answer, so it's important you complete your prediction for these ones. The next type of question is going to be what I call structure questions. Here's how to solve it in 4 steps. The first step is to read the question. This asks you which choice best describes the overall structure of the text. Then you want to read the passage. And while you're reading the passage, you want to think, how was this passage written? What came first? What came second? What came third? What was the function of each sentence? There are 4 main functions of a sentence. The first one being background information. And these are the sentences that kind of set the scene. So like a long time ago in a land far away, there were 2 kings, blah, blah, blah. Kind of like SAT fluff. The next step would be a claim. It'd be whatever the characters or scientists in the passage are stating or trying to prove. Then you would have evidence. These would be the findings, the data, the logic supporting the initial claim. Then you would have a counterclaim. And this is a claim that disagrees with the initial claim. So those are the 4 main functions of a sentence. And this will help you with step 3, your prediction, and then you want to confirm your answer. So for structure questions, you can predict your answer pretty well, but most of the time you do have to confirm it with the passage to know that your answer is correct 100%. Last for these types of questions are going to be what I call function questions. First step is to read the question. It's going to ask you, what is the function of the underlined portion in the text as a whole? You want to read the passage and just think, these are very similar to structure questions where how was this passage written? And then what did this one sentence do is the only difference, where you place the emphasis on that one particular sentence using the same functions mentioned previously, like background, claim, evidence, and counterclaim. Then you want to predict the answer, kind of think of the answer on your own, confirm that answer in the passage. Third, we have cross-text connection questions we can solve in 4 steps. You want to read the question, and it's going to ask you something along the lines of, based on the text, how would text 1 respond to text 2? They can also ask you how would text 2 respond to text 1 respond to the underlined portion in text 2. It doesn't really matter, but you can absolutely recognize these because they're the only question on the SAT that has 2 passages for it. The next step is you want to read the passage. And the order doesn't matter. Really, like students ask, do you want to read text 2 before text 1 before text 2? It doesn't matter, it's up to you. Just do enough of them where you'll kind of develop your own strategy. But what you absolutely want to pay attention to for these is the main idea. It's incredibly important because you want to find the shared topic. That's primarily what the question is going to be asking about. So you want to find the main idea that they have in common and then think, well, do these passages agree or disagree with each other? Because this is going to help you predict your answer. How would 2 respond to 1 or 1 respond to 2? And then you want to confirm your answer by choosing an answer, confirming it with a passage, or confirming it with your prediction. And I just want to place emphasis on dumb summaries are fantastic for these questions. They're long and they're dense. So jotting notes down as you read on your scratch paper can be very, very helpful for these questions. So we covered the 3 types of craft and structure questions. Now let's focus on the next section, information and ideas. There's going to be 3 types of questions for these as well: central ideas and details, command of evidence, and inferences. Let's begin. First up, we have central ideas and details, and there's 2 types of questions for this section. The first type is what I call text questions, and you can solve it in 4 steps. First, you want to read the question. they always ask you something like based on the text, according to the text, what does the text indicate, the text makes which point. And so that's why I call them text questions. It's because every time in the question, it's something referencing the text. So when you do this, you want to read the passage and then find the answer in the passage. Most of the time, when the question directly references the text, the answer will be stated in the text. When you find it, you kind of want to predict the answer by paraphrasing the passage. So really make sure you understand what the passage is saying and then confirm your answer. So once you choose your answer, compare it back to the passage to confirm it. The second type are main idea questions. First, you want to read the question. It's always going to ask you which choice best states the main idea of the text. Then you want to read the passage. When you read the passage, for science passages, the main idea might be stated in the first or last sentence. But for poetry and literary passages, you're going to look out for the repeated words, characters, or ideas throughout the text. Then you want to predict your answer. Ask yourself, what was the passage about and why was this passage written? Then you want to confirm your answer. And this is one of those questions where your prediction is going to be very similar to the correct answer because there's really only one main idea for a passage. Next up, we have command of evidence, and there's two types of command of an evidence questions. The first type are claims questions, 4 steps. You want to read the question, and these always ask you to support, illustrate, or weaken a claim, hypothesis, argument, assertion, conclusion. They always ask you in the realm of support or weaken a claim, and claims can have many different names. A hypothesis is a claim, argument is a claim, conclusion is a claim. That's why they're called claims questions. When you do these, you want to read the passage and just find the claim. It is going to be the most important part of the passage. Then you want to predict your answer. What would support this claim? Because once you found the claim, and if you understand the claim, you should understand what would support or weaken it. Then you want to confirm your answer by taking the answer that you choose and comparing it directly to the claim that you found in the passage. The second type of question are going to be charts questions. The first step is to read the question. You can recognize these because they have a chart and a graph in the question, but also they ask you which choice most effectively uses data from the graph. That's how you can recognize these. The next step is going to be to read the passage. What's by far the most important is that you find the claim and the relationships in the passage. Ignore the rest. Most of the passage will be fluff. Something like 70% of charts passages don't matter. You want to find the relationships and you want to find the claims. What relationships are how variables interact with each other. These are often the variables that are shown in the chart or graph, and it'll talk about them in the passage. An example would be, hey, if mercury goes up in the river, the fish population is going to decline. And if the fish population declines, the fisherman can't sell fish, so sales will go down, and that means the country's GDP will go lower. And then you'll look into the chart and it'll have something along the relationship between mercury and country's GDP. And so finding that is incredibly helpful to understanding the graph and finding the correct answer. Because the next step is to predict your answer. You want to go ahead and look at the graph and find information from the graph that supports your relationships in your claims. Then you want to confirm your answer. So the correct answer for graph questions will support the claim and the relationship, but it will also match the data in the graph. What can happen is that they give you information that supports the claim and the relationships, but it doesn't match the graph. So you have to make sure it does both. But that's how you solve charts questions. Last, we have inference questions. These questions always ask you which choice most logically completes the text, and they occur at the end of the middle section, right before grammar occurs. You want to go ahead and read the passage, and these passages are a little different than the rest. They always have 2 ideas mentioned in the passage. It's kind of like a math equation. You want to find the first idea, find the second idea, think about it for a sec. Do these ideas disagree? Do they agree? And then you predict the logical conclusion that would occur. Always think about the simplest answer or the simplest conclusion between the 2 ideas mentioned in the passage. Then you want to confirm your answer. A lot of the times, your prediction is going to be very similar to the correct answer, but if you find yourself flipping through the answer choices to find the correct answer, think about which one matches the main idea. That is the best razor for finding the correct answer and getting rid of wrong ones for inference questions. That concludes information and ideas. And so we've covered craft and structure, information and ideas, and now we're going to the last section, expression of ideas. And there's two types of questions here, transitions and rhetorical synthesis. These are the last questions before the end of the reading and writing module, and here's how to solve them. Here's how to solve the transition questions with 4 steps. But before we begin, you must know the 5 categories and functions of transitions. So take a look, screenshot, and save the image above, showing you the 5 different types of transitions, what all the words mean and how they function. This is really good stuff to save for while you study for the SAT. So the first step is to read the question. It's always going to ask you which choice completes the text with the most logical transition. Then you want to read the passage. You want to think about how the ideas before and after the blank relate. So is it idea 1 to idea 2? Is it cause and effect? Is it general to specific? And so on. And this will help you predict what transition you would put in the blank before looking at the answer choices. Then when you look at the answer choices, you want to go ahead and confirm your answer. You want to categorize each answer choice into and, so, but, so you know the function of them and choose the most appropriate one. What's really cool about transition questions is that if you see 2 words that both function the same way, that means they're both wrong because you can't have more than one right answer. So process of elimination and eliminating answers is a very useful tool, especially for tricky transition questions. Here's how to solve rhetorical synthesis questions in 4 steps. First, read the question. These are always going to ask you which choice most effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal. And you can also recognize these because they're the only question type with bullet points on the SAT, and they're the very last questions in both the reading and writing modules. But what's super important about these is that you understand the question and the requirements that it's asking for. So these are asking for various different things. They'll ask for, hey, list 2 similarities between some items. List 2 differences. I want you to make and support a generalization. These are all requirements. So if it asks you to make and support generalization, make sure that the answer you choose makes and then supports a generalization. Super important. Next, you want to go ahead and read the passage. You want to go ahead and find your answer in the bullet points. It should be explicitly stated. And once you find it, predict your answer, more or less paraphrase it so you know what to look for in the answer choices, and then confirm your answer. So once you choose an answer in the answer choices, you need to go back and confirm it with the question itself. You need to make sure it meets all of the requirements. But these questions are fairly straightforward, and if you do this, you're very, very likely to get them all right. Here are the 4 best SAT test-taking strategies for the reading section. Number 1 is you want to begin the reading and writing modules in the grammar section. This idea stems from you want to do the tough questions last. So the grammar section, so standard English conventions, then transitions, then rhetorical synthesis, tend to be the easiest and least time-consuming questions on the exam. Therefore, don't you want to do those ones first? Then you want to go and do the words in context, then the dense middle section passages. This is because a lot of the time, students run out of time on the exam. They're not able to complete every question, and once again, this is okay. The exam's not meant to be finished. It's very hard, especially if you get the hard modules. So you want to do the easy questions first, so when you run out of time, you run out of time on very difficult questions. Questions you weren't likely to get right anyways. Doing this ensures that you get all the easy questions right, and you get all those points first, and if you run out of time, on questions you weren't likely to get right anyways. So you want to begin in the grammar section, then do the transitions, then rhetorical synthesis, then go back to the beginning of the module, do the vocabulary, words and context questions, then the middle section where the dense passages, and finish from there. The second strategy is called popcorning. Popcorning is just skipping hard questions and doing the easy ones first. Particularly for the reading and writing module, you want to do this for the middle section. And you want to do the easy questions first. So once you do grammar, transitions, rhetorical synthesis, then vocabulary, you're going to get to the middle section. This is when you're going to get the dense passages and you're going to have to answer those. When you get here, you want to go ahead and only do the easy ones first. You want to popcorn or skip around the middle section. Some questions are going to be harder and some questions are going to take longer than others. You want to go ahead and do the easy questions first. This is called popcorning. The third one is going to be sacrifices. So what sacrifices are these are the questions where either A, they're incredibly difficult. You take a look at the passage and it's super dense, or it's super convoluted and confusing, or it's just incredibly long and you can tell it's going to take a lot of time to solve. So when you see these, you take them as a sacrifice. You don't even attempt the question. You click C and you move on and you don't even try it. You don't even go back and try to attempt it because you know it's going to be incredibly hard or very time consuming. To put it simply, these are questions you skip on the test and you don't even try. The idea here is the 5 minutes you would have spent trying to get that question right, you would have then apply to much easier questions, getting you more total correct questions. The amount of sacrifices that you have depends on the score that you want. So if you're trying to get a 1600 on the SAT, it is very likely you can't have any sacrifices. You need to do the entire exam. But even if you're trying to get a 1400 on the SAT or at least a 600 to 700 on the reading and writing module, you can have multiple sacrifices. You can skip 3, 4, 5 questions. You just want to make sure that that time that you save, you spend on questions you know you can get right. I generally tell students to aim around for 3 sacrifices. But once again, if you're just trying to get from 1000 to an 1100, you can have more than 3 sacrifices. But if you're trying to get above a 1500, you'll probably need less. But it's really up to you. And save these sacrifices for the hard module, for the very difficult questions. Once again, these are questions you do not attempt. You want to be very selective with what you consider a sacrifice. Make sure it's a very, very tough question. Last strategy is to use the SAT tools. Not enough students use these. These are the highlighter, the scratch paper, crossing out answers. These tools will definitely, if you use them on the exam, increase your score. Granted, some students don't like to, and that's fine, but using none at all, I can assure you one of them is going to help you. And so what I mean by this is the highlighting function on the digital SAT, or writing notes and creating dumb summaries on your scratch paper for the reading and writing module, or using crossing out answers so when you determine it's not A or C, cross out A and C. Trust me, this stuff helps on the exam and can get you those few points you need for scholarships or breaking into the 1300s or 1400s. So those are the 4 best SAT reading test taking strategies possible. Want to achieve your dream SAT score? Here's your next step. Click the link in the description below to book your free 15-minute score strategy call. On the next page, pick a time that works best for you, fill out 5 questions, and you'll receive a confirmation stating you're booked. We only offer a handful of these every week and spots fill up fast, so grab yours now. On the call, we're going to discuss your 3 biggest SAT weaknesses and build you a personalized plan to improve your score. No pressure, just clarity. Book your spot now.